There is a view that Isaiah has two parts.
Okay.
Okay? There is
Whose view is that? Scholars.
scholars. Why do you laugh?
Don't worry. Don't get sidetracked.
No. I want to understand this psychology, this mentality. Scholars.
You can do afterwards. You can do
Scholars.
afterwards.
Scholars. I want to. No. Seriously. I want to understand what's behind this psychology. When he mentions scholars, they go.
Let me tell you, last week he had a discussion with a few
No
scholars,
problem.
and that's why he just made a joke about it.
Okay. No, but
Let's stay on the point. Let's stay on the point.
next time I'm going to say scholars, I'm going to say. Okay. Yeah, so that I can do it. So that I can do it. Okay. So scholars. Okay. So I'm going to talk about a scholar. Okay. Right. Scholars. Thank you. Scholars.
Scholar gang, come on.
That's it. Next time you won't do it.
I won't.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
And you don't think that's a fable? You don't think that's a story?
No, I don't. I
You actually honestly believe
I
that?
believe it, yeah.
That the sea can split in
You
half.
don't believe it?
And you honestly believe like the moon, yeah, was split in half by Muhammad and then brought back together again?
believe it.
You believe all of
I
that?
believe in the unseen.
Okay, cool. I can't help you then.
I
I can't help you. Do you know why? Do you know why? Yeah, I deal with facts and knowledge and things that I can prove. If I can't prove it, I don't accept it.
You can't prove
I have to say Allahu Alam. I can't prove it.
Can you prove
see what
there's
I'm
no
saying?
God?
I would choose not to do that.
So why then?
Huh?
Why?
Why? What?
Why
Why
would
would
you-
I choose
yeah.
not to?
How are you
prove
proving
that
these
there's no
Egyptians are right and
gods?
you proving there's no God that's
I
right?
said I'd rather not prove that there's no God because that's proving a negative. Like you should be proving to me that there is a God. The burden of proof is on you.
Well,
For you to prove
alright,
to me that there
let
is
me
a
prove it
God,
to you, yeah?
rather than for me to
Let me
prove to you that there is
then.
no God.
Let me prove it to you
I
then.
don't really want to go there
All right,
though.
then. All right.
Well, go
See-
ahead.
All right, see Muhammad, yeah?
Yeah.
He was a man that was in the desert.
Okay.
How would he know about mountains being as pegs on the ground? How would he know about?
Yeah.
How would he know about
So you're
the
saying
sea?
Are you
Is
saying
a
question? I want to know.
wait.
Go
How
ahead.
would he know about the fresh water and the salty water and they don't mix? How would he know that?
Okay.
How would he
So-
know about the
so now-
birth of a human being?
So I want to know. So I'm going
The
to
cycle of the birth.
I'm going to answer your three questions.
Go on then,
okay.
bro.
I want to know: is it not possible in the so-called desert to observe mountains?
No, there's no mountains in the
There's
desert.
no mountains.
No.
There's no mountains.
No.
So when Muhammad received his first revelation,
Yeah.
where did he go to receive the first revelation?
That's a little mountain. It's not that big. It's like a hill.
So there is mountains.
Yeah,
then.
but it's like a hill, man. It's not
So
a
there
mountain.
is mountains.
Brother,
Have you seen it? Have
Do you know
seen
what a
it?
mountain is?
Have
It's
you
a big
seen it?
mountain, isn't it? Mountain. It's a
Okay.
mountain.
Do you know in Yemen,
It's not a mountain. That's a hill.
in Arabia, there are mountains?
Yeah, but there's hills. There's not mountains like there is in Everest and all that. We're talking about mountains He's talking about the mountains that are.
How do you know he's talking about that?
Because he said it. He said the mountains are put on earth to make the world stable. How did he know that?
He never said that.
He did.
He said as pegs into
As
the earth.
pegs to make the world stable.
That is
So you
like
know
a-
what he said, and you
that's a
still don't
basic-
believe. What
that's a
kind of
basic
human being
thing.
are you?
That's a basic thing.
Yeah,
It's a
how,
basic thing.
How is
That-
someone
that mountains
1400
look
years
like
ago
pegs.
gonna know that?
Really?
Yeah.
I won't even go there with you. The second thing you said about the mixing of the waters, right?
Yeah.
When you go to the sea,
Yeah.
okay? Have you ever been to the beach before?
No, forget the big. We're talking about
Okay, have you-
salty
have you
water
been to the
and normal water.
Okay.
It doesn't mix.
He doesn't say that yet again, okay? It says about the two waters not mixing.
Yeah.
Okay? If you've ever been to the sea before, you can go to Brighton Beach.
How did Muhammad get to the sea?
Let
He
me
was
say-
in by
let-
the sea. He was in the desert.
Do you know how close the Red Sea is to him?
No, but he wasn't in the sea. He was in the desert.
He was not in the desert, my brother.
He was. It's the Saudi Arabia's a desert.
Lord God Jesus. What country you from?
Morocco.
Morocco, seriously. And you don't know this?
What?
Have you ever done Hajj
Why
before?
don't I know?
Have you ever done Hajj before?
No.
Have you ever seen how close, yeah,
Yeah.
Mecca is to the Red Sea?
They ain't got no water there, no fresh water and sea mixing. They haven't got that.
Okay.
Have they got that?
Now
For him to see that?
Now let me show you something. If you
Spray, man.
if you ever go to the sea, yeah,
Yeah.
you can see that there is two shades of color in the water, and they don't mix. That's not a miracle, my brother.
The prophet didn't go to
That's
see
not-
that. He
that's
didn't,
not a miracle,
he
my
only
brother.
walked in the desert, from desert to desert. He didn't go to the sea, my friend.
Let me ask somebody
Ask
this
anyone.
question. Brother, who's been to the sea before? Have you been to the
You
sea
can't
before?
see it.
And you've seen that, right?
Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Can you see it with your eyes? You have to go to a place where there's hot, fresh water
My
and
brother's-
salty water to see it. You can't just see it anywhere
You can see it from the boat.
You can see it.
from the boat.
Yeah.
Well, there was no boat. Muhammad never went on a boat.
It's a different.
He never went on a boat once.
Okay, all right, to your knowledge, anyway.
Yeah.
Just say to your knowledge, yeah?
He used to travel in a camel. camels
to
on
your,
foot.
to your knowledge, right? To your
I'm
knowledge.
telling you, bro.
To your knowledge. Like the things that you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Like it's just like rhetoric. It's rhetoric. You've heard.
It's nothing that I
Look,
heard.
look. Look at this. Look at this. My brother's even showing you.
Yeah, but Muhammad never saw that.
It's not miraculous.
From God's knowledge. They never knew things like that in them times, brother.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ask anyone, go and look at history.
Okay.
When did they find this thing out? When did they find it out? It's only about 200 years ago.
I found this out, yeah, when I was about 4 or 5 years old.
Go and look in the books, man. Go and look.
I went to the beach.
Brother,
I
I got
looked
no
into the
reason to
sea,
lie to you.
I went on the boat.
They only knew this like 200 years ago or 100 years ago.
Okay, my
All
brother.
right. What about the stomach where the baby's formed? And how did he know that? Did he have X-ray eyes?
So I want to know. I want to know. Yeah. It says that the sperm turned into blood.
Forget what he said. I'm just telling you. How did he know this?
We have to go into what he said
No,
and how did he know
just
it.
how did he know? Did he have extra accuracy? The only way you can get to know this.
Clearly,
is
he didn't
through-
know about
Brother,
embryology.
see the sperm.
Clearly,
The
he
se-
didn't
the
know about
sperm,
embryology.
People time ago used to think that the man's sperm is the one that does the baby, but now we know it's the woman and man's sperm that mix. How did he know this?
Okay, no.
You told me.
No. Muhammad actually believed that whoever gave the discharge, yeah, the person, the child will either be a male if the man gave the discharge, or a female
no,
if the
lie
woman
to
gave
the
the
people,
discharge.
bruv. In the Quran it says
But
the
in the
two
Quran,
mix.
let's go.
The two mix.
Now let's go. In the
two
Quran,
mix.
in the Quran,
it says the two
says
mix.
that the sperm
Mixes
now
with the-
changes into blood. I want to know from you, is that a miracle?
Are you being
is that
real?
even
Are you
scientifically
being real?
correct?
You're lying about the prophet now.
I'm asking you.
I'm telling you that's not what it says.
What does it say?
Look, it says that the two eggs, the egg when the man's thing they mix.
It says the egg.
The egg and the woman's thing mix.
It
They
says the
don't.
egg. It doesn't say the egg though, does
Look,
it?
how could he know that 1400 years ago? There's no
what?
you know that.
What did he say that's scientific?
You
Tell
can
me. What
only
does he
see
say?
that through the microscope, innit? You know that, innit? You can only see that stuff through the microscope.
My brother.
Do you know that?
My brother, do you know what you need to do?
Brother, are you not
Go
being
and
real?
learn some more Islam. Go and learn
How?
go and
How?
learn a bit more. And come up with much more refined
Bro, I'm telling you, the Prophet knew
arguments.
about the rain, how it fall. How would he know that?
Okay.
Did he go to school?
Question. How did Aristotle know this?
That we don't care about. We're talking about the Prophet.
Okay, how did Aristotle know
We're
this?
talking about the Prophet.
Aristotle is roughly about 900 years, maybe just under 1,000 years prior to
You're
Muhammad.
being very insincere. This I told you, being very insincere earlier. You're insincere, bro. You always do this.
Yes,
I
hello.
was talking to you about.
I think we need, brother Adnan into the
Brother,
conversation.
finish him off. Finish him off. He's not listening.
You know,
If anything, we want to resurrect him.
you want to resurrect me? Want to bring me? Invite me to Islam. Invite me. So before the brother was actually making mention of 3 scientific miracles in the Quran. And so how did Muhammad know this? How did he know that the two waters don't mix?
By the way, we don't call them scientific miracles. We believe that's an oxymoron.
100%. Thank you.
So we don't call it scientific miracle.
Thank you.
There are no scientific miracles in the Quran. Okay? Yeah.
Say that again once more for the camera.
There are no scientific miracles in the
be
Quran.
valid.
Let me explain what that means. Science is purely concerned with naturalism. Quran has supernatural claims. So science has nothing to say on the supernatural. Science has no say whatsoever in the supernatural, okay, or about the supernatural world, or what we call the metaphysical world. So science has no concern with God or the question of God. Science can neither prove or disprove God's existence, let alone the Quran or the Quranic claims. So that's why claiming that there are scientific miracles in the Quran is a false claim. It's an oxymoron, because miracle and science are two completely
ends.
different, opposite ends. Science does not consider miracles, right? So this is why I believe it's a huge mistake a lot of Muslims make out there. Okay, what they do mean is that it's a miracle in the sense that information was not available to a man like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the middle of the 7th century Arabian Peninsula. Okay, he could not have possibly attained or acquired this information on his own. Okay, because there is so much in the Quran that for one man to sit down and compile the book, especially when we consider his life, it was so full of chaos and wars and opposition.
The revelation was sent down. It was sent down in different times at different places. So the revelation wasn't like from A to Z. It was like D, J, Z, A.
Yeah, even things about Egyptian history, as you're so interested about Egyptology, because you claim to be Kemet, right? And about Egyptology, for example, Surah Yusuf makes a very interesting point. It's a subtle point, but it's a very important point, that when Joseph was talking to the king, he simply called him king. And chapter 12 of the Quran, Surah Yusuf, acknowledges the fact that Joseph was in Egypt at the time. Chapter 12, verse 21 clarifies that point, that he was in Egypt at the time. Okay? But when we go to Moses, almost 4 to 5 centuries later, we have him talking to the Pharaoh. He calls the king of Egypt Pharaoh. So when we do archaeology or Egyptology, when hieroglyphs were decoded in the early 19th century, we realize that the title the title Pharaoh was only used in the New Kingdom, during the New Kingdom.
Yep.
In the Middle Old Kingdom, Hyksos kings were governing Egypt for some time, and Hyksos kings were never called pharaohs, right? They were simply known as Humph, HMF, which means Your Majesty or the King.
Okay.
So this is a subtle point in chapter 12 of the Quran. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not have possibly have known this. Okay, he didn't know hieroglyphs. He never went to Egypt, and let alone study the temples and what's written on the temples and the history of the temples. So this is a subtle point which only came to light in the 19th century or in the 20th century, and this is one of those things we believe that Muhammad could not have known, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we don't call it scientific miracle. We call it a miracle in the sense that the Prophet could not have possibly, he could not have known this.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's true, then there is something there that cannot be ignored. If what I'm saying is true, then you simply can't ignore it and walk away from it. It's a claim the Muslims are making, that how did the Prophet of Islam know this? The fact is, he didn't know it. It came down upon him from God. He is the one who is giving right references to even historical figures. So when Joseph is speaking to the king, he simply calls him Malik, king. When Moses is speaking to the king, he calls him Pharaoh. So it's a subtle historical point in the Quran, which is accurate, amazingly.
But I remember you discussed this last year, because he believes that they're both pharaohs, or they're both kings.
Hyksos were not known as pharaohs.
We discussed this last year, and we came to the conclusion that the time frame of when Moses actually supposedly meant to exist predates the time that the use of Pera'ah was actually in existence as well. And we also know that the Quran doesn't call them Pharaoh. The Quran calls it Pharaon.
Pharaon, yeah.
Pharaon.
Yeah.
And the Kemetics never call them Pharaon. They call them
this is an
Pera'ah.
Arabized.
So
this is an Arabized.
It's an Arabized term.
Yeah,
and it would
of
be
course, like Musa.
Do you know what would be so excellent? What would have been so excellent is if he said, Para'a Ramesses, okay?
Right.
Or said which pharaoh it was.
No,
but unfortunately, it never did that.
You can ask God to speak to you as you like, as you would like him to speak to you. But God speaks as he wants to speak, right? Do you agree? Right? If you believe in God. I do believe in God, and I believe he speaks as he wants to speak. He doesn't speak as Kalam would want him to speak in 2017, right? So God chose these words. The word Musa is an Arabized version of Moshe, okay? The word Pharaon is an Arabized version of the word Para, okay? Okay, and you're right, the term Pharaon or Para existed even during the old period, but it was never used as a reference to the king. It simply meant great house.
Indeed.
Yes, right? So that's the point. In the old kingdom, at the time of Joseph, as we believe he lived in the old kingdom, he was not using this term for the king.
Why not? Why not?
Because the kings were not called pharaohs at the time.
Why, what's the difference between pharaoh?
Perfect. Without the question,
It means the great house. It means the great house.
Why is this stuff
Okay,
called
but this title was used in the new kingdom in a very specific way, in a specific sense for the kings of Egypt.
Excellent. Now I've got to ask you the question. What was the chronology? What time period did Musa exist inside of ancient
Chronology is a very problematic issue in Egyptology. There is no consensus whatsoever. There's no certainty on chronology. We have no idea as to when Moses.
how do you
We
establish
can't
the fact
pin. We can't pin
How did you establish the fact that Moses existed in the New Kingdom?
because he came generations after Joseph. The Israelites had expanded. They were into hundreds of thousands of people, and that's only possible when centuries go by. So we have a number of ways to demographically, the population grew.
So,
okay,
so what we're saying right now is that we don't
and
know what
Israelites
time.
the stella. Okay, when you know the stella I'm talking about,
Yes,
right?
yep, Meron
Where
Patar stella.
Israel. Sorry. Huh?
It's the Meron Patar stella.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Where Israel is mentioned by name, according to some scholars.
Yeah.
Others, of course,
Yeah, say something
disagree. Of course. So these are contentious fields where one cannot simply make an argument based upon one of these. But what we do know, however, is that the term Pharaoh was not used during the Hyksos period for the king specifically. It was used, however, for the king specifically in the New Kingdom.
Okay.
So
problem.
whether Moses lived in the beginning of the New Kingdom, or he was living in the middle of the New Kingdom, or at the latter point, it doesn't really make a difference to us.
Okay.
What we do know is that this is a very interesting, subtle point in the Quran, and it is close to historicity or historical accuracy than not.
Okay. So I would say, first of all, we now need to establish chronology.
Yeah.
We now need to establish when did Musa exist during the New Kingdom.
It's gonna be a speculative debate.
That's
Do you
number
agree?
one. That's
Do you
number-
agree?
It clearly is because we don't have any
Okay,
evidence.
so no problem. So leave
Yes.
it then. What's the point of discussing something we can never, ever possibly, unless we find some new evidence mentioning Moses with the name of a pharaoh?
Because we can now interject Moses at any period we want. We can say he belongs to the New Kingdom,
Yes,
the Middle
I agree.
Kingdom, the
I
Old
agree.
Kingdom.
I agree.
So it's like,
I agree.
why are we saying
I
that
agree.
his
So,
name?
the debate is
So-
open.
so-
I believe Moses lived nearly 4 to 5 centuries after Joseph. Demographically, looking at the historical record, that the Israelites had grown in number at the time of Joseph.
Yep.
That wasn't the case.
Okay.
That was the beginning. That was when the Israelites came into Egypt, right? But then they grew in numbers. So if we calculate the numbers,
Yep.
if we take a number, for example, at the time of Moses, which
hear you.
is also problematic.
I hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
But
So-
let's now let me go into the argument itself. Like, the premise is really faulty already, but let's just actually try to refute it based upon what you said.
Yeah.
So how could this man possibly know this information?
Yeah.
It's quite simple. You could literally read the histories of Joseph
In what?
Josephus. Okay, Josephus, the Antiquity of the Jews.
Right.
He mentions about the Hyksos,
Right.
the Jews or the Hyksos, and they call them the Hekaz Kazut, meaning the shepherd kings.
Okay.
So we can know from that they weren't called
Very good.
pharaohs, they were called shepherd kings.
Right.
So that's how you could know.
Okay. Very good point. When was Josephus written?
Josephus was said to be written the turn of the 1st century, but now you're going to
The
go
second
into
century, you mean?
the turn of the 1st century,
The second century.
2nd century.
The second
if I'm
century.
wrong, I
Yeah,
would say I'm wrong.
Yeah, so you put him a century earlier. He wrote in the early, because Josephus was alive during the Jewish revolt.
That's right,
Of
roughly around
70
70 AD, yeah, that's
Right,
right.
thank you. Okay, so it has to be the 2nd century.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so he was writing in the early 2nd century. Okay, what language did he write in?
He wrote in the Greek language.
Okay, he wrote in the Greek language.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any evidence that Muhammad knew Greek?
Is there any evidence that Muhammad knew Greek? As far as we know, that Muhammad was a merchant and he was traveling into Syria, so it is a possibility that he may know Greek, but let's just say that there is no physical evidence.
I'm asking, is
there's
there
no
any evidence? No.
There's no evidence.